Guys, why don't you two guys then? Why don't you two guys control this whole process? And why don't you?
We're finish off.
Well,
this is supposed to be a business
okay,
deal.
Go ahead.
Not anything else.
Go ahead. You're going to knock these guys down every 2 seconds?
Go home.
Joe, we need you, Joe.
Joe,
we need you.
Give me a break.
They need you, Joe.
Wow, you're getting a glimpse of one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Canadian fashion, from Club Monaco to Joe Fresh to the new season of Dragon's Den. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe Mimran. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking frefresh this morning.
Oh,
sharp.
It's pretty early to be looking this fresh.
Yeah, but you make it look easy. So, okay, but that's you, that's Dragon's Den, and that is that show in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's the show. I tell you, you can get into so many arguments with the fellow dragons, you have no idea. Well, it's combative. They should change the name.
So is it friendly combative, or are you guys sometimes behind the scenes like,
no,
drove me nuts today?
It's like, I always akin it to, if you go on a canoe trip, imagine you're going on a canoe trip with 4 other people. Okay, and you're stuck with them for 4 weeks. That's what that's.
Oh,
it's
man.
like a family in a sense, right?
And when we see what you've shot, you were just telling me off the camera that you know those shoots that you guys do, you're in there for a long time.
Yeah, we are. We're there from 8 in the morning until 6 at night. We see 10 pitches a day, 10 to 12 pitches a day.
Wow.
And we see great entrepreneurs, you know. That's what the show really is about. It's about entrepreneurship, and it's I think it's a it's a great lesson for so many of the viewers to see how people start out, and you know, their dreams and aspirations, and to try and figure out who's going to win over the dragons, and who's going to get an investment and who's not, who's prepared and who's not, who's kind of wacky, because you do get some wacky ideas on the show, but in the end, you know, it's always a reminder of how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And for me personally, I have so much empathy for a lot of these people who come on the show, because I started my career 30-odd years ago, and it's a slog.
Well, I can only imagine. Now, you having seen it yourself and having experienced it yourself through the years, do you ever look at these entrepreneurs and sometimes go, okay, you've put everything into this, into this,
right? But
I don't think it's going to work. Is that hard to crush people's dreams?
It is hard to tell them, and we get into arguments between the dragons as to what is the right direction. You know, there was one show where one episode where, you know, somebody had put their house on the line for their dream, and you know, there were a couple dragons who said never ever do that, and then I'm thinking in the back of my mind, hey, I remember when I did that at one point. So you know, sometimes you do have to take risks. You have to believe in what you do if you want to get there.
Well, and I guess along that line, so you see these pitches all the time. You're someone who's created a business, multiple brands that are worldwide. Now, in the digital age, what do you think works? So for people who are watching on television right now this morning going, I got this idea, what do I need to do? Well,
I think you need to understand the digital age. I think you've got to come at it from that perspective. At the end of the day, it's still about product, and it's still about filling a consumer need. And you've got to be realistic. It's not about whether you love the product, which is what I see all the time on The Den. People who fall in love with their own product. You've got to make sure that the consumer falls in love with your product. And I think that the big difference today is that you've got to do that within a digital context. And the consumer out there now, even before, you know, when they're buying a granola bar, they'll go to 10 different sources online to get an opinion.
Read the Yelp review on granola bars.
Right, and for a car, it's something like, you know, it's 20 sources. So you've got to be there during that journey to purchase, and you've got to understand how you can interface with the consumer. So, you know, the dynamics are very different, the complexities are very different, but, you know, by the same token, this is an opportunity now to cross borders. So you can cross borders with online and e-commerce in a way that you could never do before. So on the one hand, it's more complex. On the other hand, it's opened up the world in terms of selling things.
What types of people? What do you see in people? Not just characteristics. You go, I don't know what it is about this person, but I believe in that person.
You know, I like to see passion and preparedness. And a lot of people will come to the Den without really preparing their pitch, without really understanding what it is that they are looking for, and understanding some of the business 101. You can't know everything.
No.
You've got to be coachable, and you've also got to be able to look to other people for advice. But by the same token, you've also got to have you know, some modicum of understanding of the financials and valuations and product and
well, you're
consumer.
running a business. I mean,
you're
you
running
know
a business,
that.
so you got to. There's a few things you better know.
Joe, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, my
We're
pleasure.
So excited for season 11. And by the way, that was just a microcosm of what's to come.
Oh, there's a lot of action on the show.
You can catch the premiere of Dragon's Den tonight at 8 p.m. on CBC. And for more info, just head over to breakfasttelevision.ca. We'll be right back.